What is up, nerds? It's Pat from the Nerd You're Looking For podcast, and today I want to talk about whether or not I think Madden 19 is worth the price. But before we get started, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, ding that bell, smash that like button. All three of those things help us out tremendously. So I ponied up for the Madden 19 Hall of Fame edition, and you get a lot of stuff with the Hall of Fame edition, but most notably for me, I got to play it a few days earlier. So I actually got to start playing this on Tuesday, and it doesn't actually come out for the general public, the base game, until Friday. So basically all I've been doing for the last 2 days is working, sleeping barely though. I don't know if you can tell the bags under my eyes. I haven't gotten much sleep the last couple of days because I've been playing this game so much. And then of course playing Madden. I think I've actually played Madden more than I've been at work, which is kind of crazy to me over the last couple of days. So I'm going to break up this review kind of in a similar fashion that we do on the podcast when we review something on the podcast. I'm going to break it up into different sections. I want to talk about the three main game modes here in Madden 19. And then, of course, I want to talk about the gameplay, how well it plays. And then I want to talk about the sound. And that doesn't just include the soundtrack, but just the sound in general. I think that's something that gets overlooked when talking about video games. It's not quite as important in a sports game like this, but I think it's important enough to talk about. And the last thing that I want to talk about with this review is I want to talk about something I really think is completely overlooked with video games, and that is the replay value. We spend so much money on these video games, and if we just play them once, chances are they're probably not going to be worth the price tag. And of course, at the very end, I will give it a star rating out of 5 stars. So like I said, there are three main game modes in Madden 19. You have Madden Ultimate Team, which I will refer to as MUT most of this review. So if you're not familiar with the community, that's usually what it's called. So MUT, Madden Ultimate Team. And then of course you have Longshot, which is their story mode. And then you have Connected Franchise or just Franchise. So I'm going to start with Madden Ultimate Team MUT because that's kind of the big boy. It's kind of the cash cow for EA. And I've talked about this on past streams, also on the podcast. I refuse to pay money for Madden Ultimate Team. Other than the extra money I paid to get the Hall of Fame edition, which again was more about me playing it a couple of days early than it really was about the extra packs that I got. But the extra packs were pretty cool. I won't spend any more money on Madden Ultimate Team. So it's really hard for me to compete in Madden Ultimate Team. And it feels like, at least right now, because like I said, the base game doesn't come out until Friday. So a big chunk of the people that are going to play Madden 19 haven't started playing yet. So maybe they'll put more stuff in it for the people that are willing to spend money on packs. But right now it feels like, and maybe this has something to do with the whole Battlefront 2 microtransaction controversy that hit last year. Maybe we're already feeling that in Madden, which is amazing, by the way, that we were able to make that change in such a shady company. I'm not going to hold my breath that they're completely over that, but it feels like a step in the right direction with Madden 19 so far. And I say that for two main reasons. The first reason, it feels like they're putting more cards in MUT that can be acquired without opening packs, which is crucial. For example, there was an LT Masters card last year, and by conservative estimates, it would probably cost you about $50 to get enough tokens to completely upgrade that LT, which, I mean, it was a beast, but there's no way that I can justify spending $50 as much as I game on a single Madden Ultimate Team card. Like, that's almost an entire video game by itself. And I game so much, there's just no way that I could justify that. But that card's equivalent in Madden 19 is a Ricky Williams Masters card that gets leveled up by leveling up in Madden Ultimate Team. So the more you play, the more XP that you get, which again is completely free. It's just determined by how much you play in this game. That's how you level up this card, and that card's a fucking beast. It's going to be amazing. I think you can level it up to 92, and it's just amazing. It has like a 90 speed, for Ricky Williams, who was never really a fast guy, I think that card's going to be amazing, and I can't wait to get it all the way leveled up. And the second reason I think that Madden Ultimate Team is leveling the playing field for players that don't want to spend the extra money for packs is they just introduced another game mode within Madden Ultimate Team called Solo Battles. Essentially, you're playing Madden Ultimate Team, a full game of Madden Ultimate Team against the CPU. So you're no longer playing PvP, you're playing against the AI, which for players like me, that's crucial because I can't compete with guys that pay a lot of money for cards. I just can't, because it doesn't matter what your overall level is. If you don't have super fast cards, you just can't compete. And that was something that I brutally learned last year when I tried to play online with my Madden Ultimate Team. I had like an overall, like an 88 team, and I just got curb stomped. It was ridiculous. And I'm good at Madden. It's just that my cards, because I refused to pay money for packs, I just wasn't getting the caliber of card that these guys that were paying money for them were getting. And so I think Solo Battles is kind of going to be my jam in Madden Ultimate Team, because it feels like you're playing against an actual opponent with an actual team, except for it's just not going to have those ridiculously just amazing cards in them. So it definitely feels like a step in the right direction for players like me that don't want to spend any money. And the second game mode that I want to talk about, and I'll be real brief with this, is Longshot. So if you jumped on my stream yesterday, you know kind of where I'm going with this. So I was pretty excited for this story mode. It was brand new last year in Madden 18, and I was super excited for it. I talked about this a lot on the podcast. I love NBA 2K games and their story mode. It can get a little melodramatic for me sometimes, but I think it's a really cool idea for a sports game, and I was hoping that Longshot would be kind of the equivalent to that for Madden. Unfortunately, it just was too much of a soap opera than a football game, and so I was kind of hoping that they would build on that, because I kind of forgave a lot of it because it was the first time that they had done this. I did a complete walkthrough of it last year for Madden 18, and I was kind of looking forward to seeing what they were going to change in Madden 19, and it feels like a step back. First of all, super boring. It did not go in the other direction, or at least the direction I wanted it to go in, which was more gameplay versus like the long sessions of just chit chat. There's too much of that in Longshot, and I don't know if I noticed this, or maybe it just got worse, but in Madden 18 it didn't look bad. It looked really, really bad when I was playing it on the stream the other night, and I don't get it. Like, how do you go from what you had in Madden 18, which was a good building block, to the garbage Longshot game mode that I saw in Madden 19? So the final game mode that I want to talk about, and it's the one that I'm probably going to go the longest on, just because it's still the game mode that I tend to play the most. Madden Ultimate Team is catching up, but I usually play franchise mode the most. And for years, franchise mode kind of stayed stagnant. It was just kind of cut and paste from the year previous. And I was really looking forward to this year because they had kind of teased that they were going to put a little bit more work into franchise mode. And it does feel like the first time in years that they really put some time and effort into franchise mode. The biggest thing that they did this year is they are now allowing us to import draft classes, which is huge because the drafting in franchise mode for years now has been kind of, I don't want to say broken because it hasn't been that bad. It's just been really inconsistent. The players that you would get in the first round weren't consistent with the players that you could get in the third round. And I get that you get a little bit of that in the actual NFL, but it was just really, really inconsistent. And that just really bugged me. And it's bugged a lot of people, and something that we've been complaining about as a community for a while now. And EA finally listened and allowed us to import draft classes, which, let's be honest, would take you forever to do. But luckily, Madden's community is so awesome that there are already a lot of awesome draft classes. Like, I am starting a franchise. I already started it with the Jets. And in that draft class that I imported from somebody, I already have Nick Bosa, which is going to be one of the top prospects coming into next year's draft, and I already have him on a team, and I just think that's amazing. It's so cool. I will say it's kind of funny. We've been complaining about the drafting for a while now, and EA, instead of actually fixing it themselves, they're just like, you guys do it. You think you could do a better job? You just do it. And I just think that's such a classic EA Sports thing to do. The next thing I want to talk about with franchise, they did a little bit of tweaking with the progression and regression system. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on the regression because really basically all they did was fix it. So after a player turns 30, they're not completely garbage. Like basically that was the threshold in Madden. In years past, if you had a player and he went past 30, you were going to get, all your stats were going to get nerfed. And it was super annoying. So basically you could only get really 2 contracts out of somebody that you drafted. Because after that they were going to be 30 and you didn't want them after they were 30 because they were garbage. But what they really tweaked, and I'm not sure, I mean, I ultimately like the changes that they made. I just don't know if they necessarily needed to make them. And that's with the progression system. So in years past, the way that worked was you would play, and how you play determined how much XP you would get, and your XP could be used to upgrade different skills. And you could upgrade whatever you wanted to. Like if you were a quarterback and you wanted to be an awesome kicker as well, I don't know why you would do that, but if you wanted to, you could. You just had to spend the XP to do it. While in Madden 19, basically your XP goes to skill points. And when you earn a skill point, you can then apply that skill point to a certain archetype. For example, if you're an outside linebacker and you want to be good at pass rushing, that's an archetype that you can choose to use that skill point for. And then once you choose to use it for that skill point, it will then give you all of the skills or the abilities that kind of fall under that archetype. And why that's important and why I think it was ultimately a good idea is the fact that it emphasizes team building. If your outside linebackers are speed rushers or power rushers, that's important to your team. That's important to your scheme. That's what you want to do. That's what you want to spend your skill points with. And for me, being a football nerd, that's super important for me. I love building teams. Like that's what I do most of the time when I'm in franchise. Like I play the games, of course, but I don't play every single game. I'm there to draft and sign free agents and upgrade all these players. That's what I get out of franchise mode, just building teams from being bad. That's usually why I pick a team like the Jets and build it to being good. And that's what I love about franchise. And that's why I like the new progression system, because it emphasizes team building. Speaking of team building, it feels like they tweaked the AI team building in this game. So in years past, it's kind of been a running joke within the Madden community. AI does really stupid shit when it comes to franchises. Like if you drafted a quarterback in the first round one year and he was still bad the next year and it was an AI controlling that team, they would draft another quarterback. And it's like, you already did that last year. Like teams don't put draft capital in a position just to give up after that. After 1 year in that same position. It does happen occasionally, but for the most part, if you spend a first round pick in a particular position, especially like a quarterback, you don't then spend money in free agency or in the draft the next year to fill that position again. You give that guy another year because you spend that draft capital. Well, in Madden, that didn't always happen. The computer controlled teams made a lot of stupid mistakes in Madden, and they kind of tweaked it. It still has a few head scratchers here and there, stuff that I personally wouldn't do, but it's not like ridiculous anymore. All right, so those were the 3 big game modes in Madden 19. So we're going to move on to the gameplay. And kind of like what I said with franchise, gameplay doesn't get tweaked that much year to year, but it feels like franchise. This year they put a real emphasis on changing them. Tackling feels more natural, but what really caught my attention and what they've been really plugging is what they're calling real player motion. So this is the second year that they've used Frostbite, which is a game engine they created for Madden 18. So this is the second year that they've used it, and it feels like they're really starting to tap into that potential of that game engine. And they introduced what they call, again, real player motion. And what this is supposed to do is make running the ball mostly more realistic. And they have this mechanic called the one cut, where you basically have to keep pressing a button and then release it and you cut up field, and it's supposed to make running a lot more realistic. And it does take a little bit of time to get used to. I'm starting to kind of get the hang of it, and I'm starting to kind of see where they're coming from as far as introducing this. It does look more natural, and it does, I mean, once you get used to it, it does really help the running. But I really struggled running the ball for the first few hours that I played it. Really, actually, I was still struggling until last night when I finally gave up and I figured out what it was. It wasn't the real player motion that was catching me up. It was the fact that the block shedding, I don't want to say broken in this game, but it's really bad. And I really hope that when the base game comes out on Friday, they will do a title update and fix the block shedding, because it is ridiculous. I was running the ball 18 times in a game and I was getting like 60 yards. I was happy when I was getting like 4 or 5 yards a rush. I usually play a pretty West Coast offense, so it's very methodical. So if I'm only getting like 1 or 2 yards a rush, it makes it really hard for me to justify keep running the ball, because it puts me in such a hole all the time. So my butthole was clenched the entire time I was running the ball because I was so bad at it. And it's not even my fault. I'm good at this game. I'm good at running the ball. I love running the ball. It's one of my favorite things to do in Madden. And they broke it because of this block shedding bullshit. So I finally had to give up and fix it with the sliders, because I couldn't stand it. I don't want it to be super easy. I don't want to have 200 yards rushing every game. I just want it to feel real to me. Like, I'm good at running. I shouldn't struggle as much as I'm struggling. And I really think it's just because of the block shedding. I do want to point out that the wide receiver and cornerback battles feel awesome in this game. Like, it feels like something they've been building towards for a while now. They've really worked on the passing game and the wide receiver catching in these games. And the past games, the catching, like if you had any catch in traffic, chances are, unless you mess with the sliders, you were probably going to drop it. And it feels like they finally tweaked it perfect, like the perfect amount. But what I really like is the wide receiver cornerback battles. They are realistic and they look awesome. Wide receiver will go up for the ball, the cornerback will jump with them, and as they hit the ground, the quarterback's like swiping at the ball, knocking it out of his hands. It's really cool to watch. And it's just, again, being a football nerd, I love those little things. I will say, and again, this is something that they probably need to tweak, is there are some cases where that doesn't work quite as natural as you would like it. Like, the wide receiver will catch it, take like a step or two, and then the cornerback will punch it out, and that should be a fumble, but then they just say it's an incomplete pass because the game isn't quite as fine-tuned as you would like it to be. The last big thing that they did in Madden 19 as far as the gameplay is concerned is they've added some really cool celebrations. You get to pick between your celebrations. You can have team celebrations. I thought it was awesome when the NFL finally got rid of that stupid celebration rule and teams were able to have fun again. And that was really awesome. And I loved that Madden followed suit in Madden 19. It's really fun. I will say that I kind of wish, especially if you're going to do like a created player franchise, that you should be able to unlock new celebrations. I think that would be kind of cool. It would bring like an RPG aspect to Madden, which I think would be really cool. But it's still pretty cool that they put the celebrations in. But again, it seems like after you play for a while, you kind of start seeing the same ones over and over again. I will say that if you have particular players like Brandon Cooks or OBJ, like they have their particular celebrations, they will do those celebrations. So that is pretty cool. But when you just have generic players and they do like a team celebration, it's like one guy stands in the circle and he dances while the other one dances around him. You see that one all the time. But it is really cool that they put celebrations into this game. So on to the sound. Like I said, I think this gets overlooked in a lot of reviews, so I wanted to mention it real quick. This is going a little bit longer than I thought it was going to, but I love Madden, so I get really into it. I'm not going to be that guy and say that the soundtrack sucked in this game because I don't know if it sucked. I don't listen to rap. I've said this before. I'm literally and figuratively the whitest guy you'll ever meet. I don't listen to rap. So I'm not going to say that the soundtrack sucked just because it's not the kind of music that I listen to, but it's all rap. Like in years past, it's been a lot of rap, and then you'd have a few rock songs and a few country songs. But this year, it's all rap. I find because I do play a lot of like team building franchise kind of stuff, and so I'm kind of in the menu a lot, so you hear a lot of the soundtrack, I find myself kind of muting it and then listening to my own music while I build my team. Because I just don't listen to rap. I'm not interested in the rap. So I can't really say if it's good or bad, but I will say that it's all rap. So if that's really not your thing, then you won't like this soundtrack. What I really like is the commentary. It's been getting better and better every year. Now, I will say that some of it is not exactly cut and paste from last year, but they do talk about a lot of the similar kinds of stuff. And so that's kind of annoying, but I really like Charles Davis and Brandon Gaudin. I think they do a really good job. I love Brandon Gaudin because I'm a Georgia Tech fan, and he used to call Georgia Tech games, and I really loved when he called the game. And so I just thought it was awesome that he became part of Madden a few years ago, because that's a big deal to me every year. And a guy that I used to really like when I was watching Georgia Tech football games now gets to do this other thing that I really like. So I think it's really cool. I also think it's amazing that they do updates throughout the year. I mean, obviously they haven't done an update yet because the game just came out. The base game's not even out yet. So they haven't done an update for the commentary yet, but I look forward to those updates because I think it's really cool. And then finally, before I give it a star rating, the replay value, I think really depends on how you feel about Madden Ultimate Team. Because the franchise is cool, but you can only do it for so long. So really the replay value really hinges on whether or not you like Madden Ultimate Team and you're willing to grind at Madden Ultimate Team. Because there's a lot that goes into Madden Ultimate Team. But if you don't want to pay money like me, you really, really have to grind at it. I don't think that Longshot's very good. I probably won't finish it. Well, I mean, I'm kind of a completionist, so maybe I will kind of grit my teeth and finish it. But like, Longshot doesn't really add anything to me for this game. For me, it's just a franchise and it's Madden Ultimate Team. So if you're willing to grind, I do think that it has a lot of replay value because they are constantly adding things to Madden Ultimate Team, and they have like these big events and throughout the year. So I think that it is definitely worthwhile. It definitely does have a lot of replay value. All right, that's it, nerds, for my review of Madden 19. I think ultimately I'm going to give it a 3.5. And if they do a title update soon and tweak some of the things that I said they should tweak, so EA, if you're listening, do that for me, and I will bump it up to a 4. But right now, I'm at a 3.5. I do think it's really cool, some of the stuff they added. They really put a lot of emphasis on the franchise mode and the new gameplay, so I really appreciate that. All right, nerds, so that's it. I know this one went a little bit longer than some of my other reviews, but like I said, I'm very passionate about Madden. I will just leave you with all of the things that I asked you to do earlier, which is subscribe, hit that bell, smash that like button, and I will put all the links to everything else, including the podcast, the nerd you're looking for, in the video description below. My name is Patrick Kuhn, and I am the nerd you're looking for. Take it easy, nerds.